Swing and a drive. Right field and deep. Back goes Aquino. It's got a chance. Gone. Get out the tape measure. Long gone.
Fly the W!
Cubs fans, it's time to fly the W with Dustin Rhodes and Paul Crawly Jean.
This is season 4, episode 32 of the Fly the W podcast. Sweet, sweet Cubs redemption, Crawly. Don't forget to listen, download, subscribe, and most importantly, review the podcast. Follow on all the socials. I'm at Mully & Haw on X.
And you can follow me at Crawly's Cubs on X, Blue Sky and TikTok, and Crawly's Clubhouse on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Threads. And you can email us at crawlysclubhouse@gmail.com.
All right, Crawly, we're just maybe 30 minutes from the wrap-up of a 3-game series down in Miami. The Cubs get the best of the fish, take 2 out of 3.
You know, Dustin, when we titled this one, Sweet, Sweet Cubs Redemption, look, I'm excited as much as the next guy that the Cubs are competitive again, and we're hoping playoffs, right? We're hoping a deep push in October, but I hope people kind of realize from what happened this weekend that baseball is not a game that you can sit there and make super knee-jerk reactions on a day-to-day basis. Things happen within a series, within a season, 162 games, a marathon, not a sprint. And especially with young players, I think people need to kind of, reanalyze how they look at young players, because some of the stuff I saw on social media was just ridiculous. And, hopefully, just talking
in what
through
ways,
it.
Crawly? What did you see that was ridiculous? Give me an example, because I will admit I am Captain Knee Jerk. Okay, I treat 162 like I treat Bears games, and I know that's not fair, but it's what I do. It's how I get through it. I want to live and die with every one of these games.
It's just not healthy, man. It's not good for your mental health. You're going to get a stroke. You're going to get a stroke, Dustin, and then I'm going to have to find a new partner. It's not going to work out. Here's what I'm going to tell you. The reason that you see the Rays and other teams build up these young guys is because they just don't have to deal with the ridiculousness of people just because they make a mistake or it doesn't go their way. No offense, the greatest of the greats hitters go through slumps. Again, we've talked about how baseball is a game of failure. If you strike out 7 times out of 10, you're going into the Hall of Fame. Okay, in your career. If you're a 300 hitter, you're going to go in the Hall of Fame. You have guys that are some of the greatest, whether you're talking about the greatest closers of all time, whether you're talking about Trevor Hoffman or whether you're talking about whoever, they're going to blow games. You're going to have guys go through slumps. I don't care who it is. If it's Ted Williams, guys are going to go through slumps. It's just this. I don't know. I mean, you've been in talk radio a long time. I've listened a long time. I think that probably fuels it. And I think social media fuels it even more. And after Friday night, I was more angry at people's reactions than I was at the actual result of the game.
Well, so what on Friday? What on Friday specifically? I mean, Friday night, Crawly, they beat the White Sox. What do you mean?
I'm sorry, Monday night.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying that's why I was curious where we were going. Okay, so Monday night. Okay, but I mean, Crawly, part of it is the way they lost the game, right?
Yeah.
They were down. I wouldn't have been surprised. I think we talked about it as we were previewing this. I don't think I would have been surprised by the loss. I said that's the game I was most worried about, but it was because they were coming off the emotional high of playing in front of 120,000 fans over the weekend. The emotions of playing your in-city rival, that was also part of it.
Right.
But they had a chance, and when you score 7 runs, Crawly, okay, that was the other thing. This wasn't like they lost 3-2. When you score 7 runs, you should win the game.
That's the hope, but sometimes it doesn't happen. It doesn't
sure.
happen.
I mean, listen,
and you can, I guess.
I want cake and ice cream, Crawly. I want steak and lobster.
What I would tell people is that Joe Madden really kind of altered the way that I look at the game. And I hope that's the biggest compliment I could give someone like Joe Madden. I've told it to him to his face before that, he changed the way I think about the game. And again, take 30 minutes to celebrate, take 30 minutes to mourn a loss and move on. Now I know, trust me, there's been times where I've celebrated longer.
My 30 minutes are this podcast. My 30 minutes are the Mully & Haw show. So, 30 minutes out of every hour, the next show, I've got to, be me.
That's fine, but we're not going to send every kid that struggles to Iowa. We're not going to DFA every player that has a blip. We're not going to do some of these things that I saw where I saw.
I'm just speaking about me personally. I don't think I wanted to DFA anybody or blip anybody after that loss. I mean, there are circle of trust issues, things like that. But definitely, I wasn't sending anybody down, or I wasn't DFAing anybody.
Even if you're talking even if you're talking about a circle of trust, one game doesn't mean you don't have trust. And what we found out after the game put things into perspective. But let's kind of go through game one, right?
Correct. Let's go through the game. Let's go back to game number 1 of this series. It was Ben Brown, an important road start for him against Edward Cabrera.
Yeah, and the Jekyll and Hyde season for Ben Brown continues. First batter he faces Jesus Sanchez. He falls behind 3-0, and he throws a fastball right down the middle. Sanchez crushes a home run to center. Cubs are down 1-0. He falls behind the next batter, Augustine Ramirez, 3-1. He throws another fastball down the middle, back-to-back jack. Cubs down 2-0. Tommy Hodaby comes out. He whispers to Ben his magic. They reset. And then Ben sets down the next 12 batters in a row. His stuff, Dustin, in between the 2nd through 5th inning looked filthy. He struck out 6 of the next 12 batters.
He has the swing and miss stuff, Crawly. He's got it.
Yeah, and the wheels fell off in the 5th for Ben. He gave up a double, triple, strikeout, single, strikeout, single. He gave up 4 runs in the inning. His night was over. He was only able to go 4 2/3 innings. He gave up 6 runs on 7 hits, no walks, 8 Ks, but he did give up 2 home runs. And this is what Ben had to say about the game.
Yeah, I felt pretty good the whole game. I felt like I had a really good effort of executing pitches, and my luck kind of ran out in the 5th. Just, good pitches that were getting hit. Didn't do a good job holding the base runner on. I think that's the one thing I can really, with Jesus Sanchez and when Al Lopez was up, him stealing second was a big play, and that falls in my hands, and I didn't do the job to get through that inning and maybe get a 6th inning. And how about the bullpen? That's, the bullpen's been grinding a little bit lately, just usage-wise. So.
It's one of those things that I think that when you have a young guy like Ben Brown, it doesn't take much for the wheels to fall off, right? It doesn't take a lot, and I feel like we see what's there. It just hasn't come together yet, but when it does, I still feel that Ben Brown could be a top-tier pitcher.
Oh, I think he could be a top tier pitcher eventually, but I think his best place right now, based on the Cubs situation, might be the back end of the Cubs bullpen, Crawly. Might be the back end of the Cubs bullpen right now, today, as we speak.
So if you're talking about the bullpen right now, I mean, it's a possibility. It all depends on what the starters do, but again, you can't just take a guy and then have him go in the bullpen and then have him come back to being a starter again. Those type of back and forths aren't going to do him any good. It's what I would say right now. I heard you guys this morning. I'm just going to say, I think the best thing for him to do is learn right now. And he talked about how, kind of because of the injury last year with the neck issues, that kind of set him back a little bit. And I don't want to set him back anymore. If he's a starter, then let him start right now. Now,
agree to disagree.
Miguel Amaya, I mean, if the Cubs would have won this game, I mean, that would have been all the talk, right? Top half of the Cubs batting order didn't do much. PCA, Tucker, Suzuki, and Bush were 2 for 17 with 3 walks. It was the bottom of the order that did the damage. Swanson, Horner, Ballesteros, Amaya, and Shaw were 10 for 21 with a walk. And the biggest hero of the day was Miguel Amaya. He was 2 for 3 with a home run, 5 RBIs, and a walk. They were down 2-0 in the 4th. The Cubs had 2 runners on with 2 outs when Miguel Amaya hit a 3-run home run the first pitch he sees. Dustin, I'm looking. Kyle Stowers, he's against the wall. He almost robbed that home run. It hit almost.
He almost did. You're exactly right. It was that close. It was really, really close. If he had any kind of a vertical, I think he would have been out.
He almost stole that, and that gave the Cubs a 3-2 lead. After the Marlins retook the lead 6-3 in the 5th, the bottom of the lineup did it again in the 6th. former Cub Jesus Tinoco. Remember, that's who they came back against last week when the Marlins were in. He comes into the games. The Cubs load the bases. Moyes Ballesteros hits a slow roller up the first baseline. Tinoco can't field it clearly. Everyone's safe. A run scores. Cubs down 6-4. And then Miguel Amaya, bases loaded, no out. He hits one to left center. Kyle Stowers again dives. Once again, he can't make the catch that clears the bases, but Moises Ballesteros is thrown out at the plate. He was initially called safe, but that was overturned, so the game's tied at 6. 1 out. Tinoco's night is done. Ronnie Henriquez comes in to face Matt Shaw, who was just called up that day. He hits a ground rule double, and the Cubs take a 7-6 lead. Runner still at second with 1 out. PCA strikes out. Tucker's intentionally walked. They pull a double steal, Shaw and Tucker. So they're up 90 feet, but Suzuki grounds out, and they couldn't cash in those 2 insurance runs. And Dustin, that would really come back to haunt them.
Oh, it sure would. It sure would. I mean, it was just, I guess, bad luck or a bad slide by Ballesteros. His foot was kind of over home plate, but never touched home plate. He was initially called safe, but the replay was accurate. He was out at the plate.
Right. And so it comes to the battle of the pens with neither Brown nor Cabrera in the game after the 5th. You had Caleb Thielbar, Ryan Presley, Drew Pomerantz combined for 3 1/3 scoreless innings. Again, tip of the hat to Presley. He's getting back into it. They gave up 2 hits, no walks, and struck out 3 batters to hold the Cubs lead into the 9th. For Miami, after Tinoco coughed up the lead, Hernandez finished that inning strong, but Bayente Belloso, remember, he started against the Cubs last week because of injuries. He came out of the bullpen, and he only gave up 2 hits and 1 walk and pitched 3 scoreless innings. He kept the deficit at 1, and that allowed the Marlins to come back into it.
Yeah, he really held the Cubs offense down again like he did the first time around.
Bottom of the 9th, Daniel Palencia is called on to get the final 3 outs, his first save attempt of the season. Something to keep in mind, Palencia had pitched 3 out of the last 4 days. He comes in, he looks filthy. He gets Connor Norby to strike out. Liam Hicks to ground out. The Marlins are down to their final out. He gets Derek Hill, the free swinging Derek Hill, to an 0-2 account, and then he makes a mistake. He tries to get a slider. You could see pitch number 2 was a slider that he swung outside, Derek Hill did. But then pitch 3 is supposed to be a slider in the same location, but Dustin, it doesn't slide. Derek Hill hits a double. And that's going to happen. You're not going to make your pitch, Dustin. The thing that I hope that Tommy Hotovy and the rest of the guys talked to him about, which bothered me, wasn't that, right? And I thought that maybe Tucker might have had a shot at that ball too. I thought maybe just missed it, right?
Well, that was the one. Now, there were 2 kind of, sort of, sports talk radio guy, Meatball Crawly, plays in that game for him. I had a bigger issue with the play in the 9th. Didn't look like he got a good jump on the ball. I didn't feel like he was hustling enough, if you will. Again, he might have a little something. I don't know, but he didn't look like a $500 million right fielder in that moment.
Either way, the main issue here, Dustin, is, okay, you made the mistake to Derek Hill. Tucker doesn't catch the ball, whatever. But now you got the 9-hitter, Javier Sanoja, who's hitting 240. And he walks him. And I feel like Palencia was kind of mad at himself about the previous missed pitch that let him affect the next batter. Right. Like you got to wipe that, go after Javier Sanoja. You can't walk him. Nope. Okay. Because now you're facing Jesus Sanchez, who was 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs. He led off the game with a home run. That's the guy you got to face. You had the guy you wanted in Javier Sanoja. Relax, make your pitches. But again, Counsell talked about it after the game. He looked a little tired, Palencia did. And he had been used 3 out of the last 4 days. And so Sanchez would rip a ball down the right field line. Both runs score. Cubs were walked off. They lose 8-7. It was the first time, Dustin, they were walked off all season long. And I think that's what caused part of the sting for Cub fans. We haven't had to deal with that at all.
No, and it does sting. It does. As much fun as it is to win those, it hurts just as bad, maybe even a little bit worse. Crawly, to get walked off. Well, here's the 6th or 7th walk-off for the Marlins?
Yep, they're known to do that. And here's what Palencia had to say after the game.
The last at bat, I left the slider hanging. He got a double. And then I walk, when you can execute your pitch in the final outs, that's going to happen. So, I'll be working hard. I feel good. It's baseball, like that happens. So, I just want to keep my heads up and be here tomorrow. In this level of baseball, you have to execute your pitches. That's not happen tonight. So I feel sad to not help the team tonight.
So I don't know where the Spanish broadcaster or translator was, Freddie Quinones, but let's also give Daniel Palencia some kudos for facing the media without a translator.
Absolutely, Crawly. Tip of the cap to you for recognizing that, and tip of the cap for him for doing it.
Yeah, and he talked about it. You don't execute your pitches in the big leagues, you're going to get hit. And I'll tell you this, I've known Daniel Palencia since I saw him come up in South Bend, and he was the closer for that team. And he's a guy that can do this. If you look at he's throwing triple digits. I had people saying, "Oh, I want him at Iowa. I don't want to ever see him again." After one bad outing. And again, we found out after the game that the reason Porter Hodge wasn't there was because he had an injury. But either way, you can't close Porter Hodge every game either. Guys are going to have to step up. And Daniel Palencia is one of those guys that could break through and be a great setup man, great closer. We don't know. He has the stuff. He's done it at every level of the game. He's done it at every level.
He's going to have to learn, right? This is a learning experience. I don't disagree with you. This is a good team to try to learn against. They aren't murderers row, right? The Marlins are not murderers row, so it's a good team. It's a good team to learn against. But the key is, when you're watching it, Crawly, okay, when you're sitting on your couch, you're driving around, however you were consuming that game, you and I and the rest of us didn't know that Porter Hodge was unavailable.
Right.
Didn't know that till after the game. So that's what happens is you're thinking, that it's kind of baseball is a thinking fan sport, right? You're kind of playing along at home. Everybody, we talk about in football, armchair quarterbacking. Well, I don't think any sport, no matter what it is on the professional level, has more second guessing than baseball. Right. Everybody who's a baseball fan is a armchair skipper. Okay. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got a thought, from the lineup to the bullpen usage, to the shifts on defense, to, whether or not it should be a contact play, where the defense is playing in certain situations. So nobody second guesses people more than in the game of baseball, in my opinion.
Right. And then the big question then was, how were the Cubs going to bounce back after that tough loss, right?
Right.
And we knew that the bullpen was gassed, and they were going to need JMO to give them innings. And Jameson was asked about that. He was asked about, what was it like to go in knowing that the bullpen needed you, that Ben Brown wasn't able to make it through 5. And again, you got a bullpen with guys down. And here's what Tyone said.
Threw more changeups. I felt like the curveball was pretty good. Other than one mistake overall, just stayed out of the kind of dangerous parts of the zone and just used the entire arsenal. So it was pretty good. And then once I got spotted a lead, it was just time to fill it up. I do like the feeling of showing up to the yard, knowing this is an important one. I can not only have a good game for the team and answer back after last night, but I can actually be a good teammate and help the relievers out who I respect a lot. So I definitely had that conversation in my head with myself, this is a big day to go out there and be a good teammate and stuff, and I like kind of that responsibility.
So JMO knew coming in that they needed him, and he'd have to be facing Ryan Weathers, who dominated them last week at Wrigley. And it was a pitcher's duel most of the game, Dustin, until it wasn't, right?
Until it wasn't, right. I mean, it was a back and forth affair, and you were worried. I was worried that that lone home run again was going to do the Cubs in.
Yeah, Weathers held the Cubs offense down, but not as much as the previous week. He gave up a first inning solo home run to Kyle Tucker to put the Cubs up 1-0. He gave up a couple singles in the third, a double in the fifth against Matt Shaw before hitting a pitch count of 80 pitches, and that was only his second start back. But I thought this was kind of funny. I took a look at this. This was from Marquee. Tucker's home run was against a lefty. Weathers is a lefty. And Kyle Tucker is second in the league in home runs against lefties. The person in first place, another Kyle Schwarber with 8, who just hit his 300th home run. But to see, Tucker have that lefty power. And again, after he didn't make that catch, after, he's been struggling lately, I had people saying he wasn't worth the money. And then 2 games later, now what are people saying? Okay. So as far as it goes on that one, with JMO, he just looked just as good, right? He was able to match him and more. He gave up 4 home runs against the Mets and 3 to the Marlins in his last 2 starts. The question was, JMO going to be able to keep the ball in the park? And the answer for the most part was 7. Yes, right? He retires the first 7 batters he faced before catcher Nick Fortes, of all people, tied the game with the home run in the 3rd inning. And you could hear the Cub fans saying, uh-oh, here we go again. But that was all Taillon gave up. He had a little bit of traffic on the bases in the 3rd and the 5th, but he was able to get out of it without any further damage. Now this, Dustin, was a Jameson Taillon quality start. 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, 2 Ks. These were the Cubs with the most innings pitched in a single game this season. Showed on April 4th, 7.1. Taillon on Tuesday, 7. Taillon April 27th, 7. Justin Seal April 7th. And showed up March 29th, 7. So this is
graphic, by the way. Nice graphic.
Yeah, they have not gotten into the 7th often. And in a day where they needed JMO to do it, he came through. Chris Flexen pitched the final 2 innings. The bullpen
Found that
gets a breather.
interesting, though, too, Crawly. Found that interesting. Chris Flexen throwing 2 innings, kind of in mop-up duty, but maybe he is a guy they're going to end up sticking into the rotation, and maybe Ben Brown is the one going to the bullpen. Just saying.
Yep.
I'm just saying.
I have a hard time seeing him pulling Brown from the rotation, but it's a possibility. The Cubs offense didn't do much against Weathers other than that first inning solo home run. But once Weathers was gone, the Cubs offense pounded all over the Marlins bullpen. Calvin Foucher was the first out of the pen, and the inning started with the leadoff walk to Seiya, and then the floodgates open. The Cubs loaded the bases on singles by Tucker and Carson Kelly, followed by 3 more singles by Dansby, PCA, and Nico to make it a 5-1 game. Foucher's day is done. Lake Botcher comes in. He gives up a sac fly to Turner. Matt Shaw doubles. Happ strikes out. Seiya up for the second time, hits a 2-run homer. Kyle Tucker singles before Carson Kelly struck out to end the inning. By the time the 6th inning was over, the Cubs scored a season-high 8 runs in the inning, the most runs they've scored in 1 inning this season. And they weren't done in it either, with position player Javier Sinoja on the mound in the 9th. The Cubs added 5 more runs, Dustin. 5 more runs there. And so the Cubs offense scored 14 runs on 21 hits, 31 total bases. They were a whopping 9 for 15 with runners in scoring position. Seiya Suzuki, 3 for 5 with a home run and 4 RBIs. Kyle Tucker, 3 for 4 with an RBI. Those are the guys that the Cubs have been waiting to get their bats going. How many times have we said bottom of the order, bottom of the order?
Yep.
When Seiya and Tucker are right, this is what the offense looks like.
That's what it looks like. It was awfully good. The 21 hits, right, matched a season best so far this year. So Bears 14, Dolphins 1, the final. Oh, wait, no. Cubs.
Right.
14. Okay. All right, so that got us to this afternoon. We have the rubber game of the series. Cade Horton making an important start for the Cubs. Max Meyer went for the fish.
Now, it was interesting because after the game was over, game 2, Taylor McGregor was talking to Kyle Tucker, and this is what Tucker had to say after game 2.
I feel a little bit better. I started to feel a little bit better, probably my second at bat yesterday, just to get a feeling in the box that I felt like I could work with. I've been kind of searching for that for a little bit. But I just feel like I've, stayed better through the ball and directional and everything, the last 5 to 8 at bats or so. So I feel like that's something I could work with and, build off of. It's more just a feeling in the box in terms of whether it's your stance or hands position or hips or just your direction that you're trying to go with the ball with the intent. And I've been kind of had like a numbness feeling for a little bit while, just trying to search for that. But I felt a lot better recently and just trying to build off that.
A numbness, did you not physical, but it just didn't feel like he was in the right place. And
right.
He said at his at bat yesterday on Monday, that's when it kind of clicked in and he hit the ball hard. He just didn't get the results.
Right, and that's important. I mean, he's maybe getting out of the field for a couple of days. He's been DHing the last couple of days now. Maybe there's going to be a little bit of a rotation with him and Sayed. Maybe Ian Happ coming off the oblique. Maybe you don't want Ian out there every single day in the field, and maybe between the three of them, there's some sort of a little bit of a rotation between Suzuki and Tucker and Ian Happ and who's DH and who's in the field. So we'll see. I like the fact that he's talking, Tucker. I like the fact that he's seriously. I mean, that matters a little bit. I know that might not be his thing, but I think it is important to do that.
Again, we talked with beat writer for The Athletic, for the Astros. He's not a talker. He's not, and a lot of times he doesn't look like he moves. He's not like PCA where it's just like dirt's coming from his shoes and flying all over the place, but he hustles and he does his best. And he's just not that guy that you're looking for as far as the quotes and all those things. But as long as the results are there, I mean, there he is for the second game in a row, hits a solo home run to put the Cubs up 1-0. That lead didn't last long. The defense was kind of up and down at the beginning of this game. First batter of the game, Jesus Sanchez hits one that goes kind of like under the glove of Dansby Swanson, and that goes for a single. Not an easy play, but we've seen Dansby make it plenty of times. A couple of hits and a walk later, the bases were loaded with 2 outs. Connor Norby hits a rocket down the line. Matt Shaw makes a great stop. Norby reaches and the run scores. The throw's not in time, but that could have cleared the bases, Dustin. And that changes the whole outlook of the game if that ball gets by Shaw.
Sure would have. No doubt about that.
The bases were still loaded with 2 outs. Matt Mervis hits one. Nico dives, goes horizontal to rob his former teammate Matt Mervis to end the threat. Dustin, Nico leads all second basemen in baseball with 7 defensive runs saved, 1 bad defensive play, 2 good ones. Bottom of the third, Graham Pauley hits a leadoff double on a ball that Ian Happ should have caught. Derek Hill reaches on an infield single, but Horton.
That was an unusual play, Crawly.
The one to Ian Happ, yeah,
Yep.
Absolutely. And I don't know if
you got a poor jump on it.
I don't know if it was the lighting. I don't know what, but usually he makes that play. He was mad at himself. Derek Hill reaches on an infield single, but Horton gets Jesus Sanchez to hit into the old 1-6-3 double play. And Horton talked after the game how he loves PFP practice and all that stuff, and he's very athletic. Cade Horton. And when he makes that play to make that double play, it was beautiful. And so, again, a bad defensive play, but then a good defensive play gets him out of it. Once again, Dustin, we had a pitcher's duel here. Cade Horton and Max Meyer locked into it. Each pitcher gave up a run in the first, but then neither offense could score a run. Kyle Tucker hit that home run, and the Cubs had runners at 1 runner on every inning except the 7th in this game. Starter Max Meyer pitched 6 innings, gave up 1 run on 5 hits with 1 walk and 4 Ks. Cade had a little bit more traffic than Myers. He gave up 1 run on 6 hits with 3 walks and 3 Ks. He hadn't walked anybody in his first 2 appearances. But, Dustin, he was able to go 5 1/3 innings, and he was able to strand runners as Miami was 2 for 9 with runners in scoring position. We talked about the tail of the tape, how they were really bad in that category. But I thought that Cade looked pretty good. He threw a season-high 92 pitches, and this is what Horton had to say after the game.
I think me and Miggy did a great job today of just working together, getting settled in. The changeup really came into play, and just attacking the strike zone. But, attacking it with intent, trying to, be around the corners and not so much middle. And I feel like we did a good job of that.
So I think they really worked well together, and hopefully those young guys can click,
Well,
now,
you always want the young guys to click, Crawly, correct?
Right. Well, I'm talking about that the pitcher-catcher relationship between the two of them.
Gotcha.
Is that
you want them to build a relationship. Gotcha.
Correct. And so, this was once again a battle of the bullpen with both starters out, just like in game 1. And Caleb Thielbar was first out of the pen after Cade retired the first batter in the 6th. He gave up 1 walk in 1 inning of work, but that was it. Brad Keller looks like a brilliant pickup on Jed's part. He pitched 1 2/3 innings and did not give up a hit or a walk. For the Marlins, Ronnie Henriquez pitched a scoreless inning and had 2 strikeouts. I wonder if the Marlins would be willing to trade that kid. I mean, he looked really good.
Really good. Really strong.
Now, Matt Bender came in, and Matt Shaw draws a leadoff walk. How many times did we see that come around, Dustin? He had a double earlier in the game, his third in 3 games since coming back from Iowa. He stole second base. Ian Happ flied out, but then I want your opinion on this one. Marlins skipper Clayton McCullough, he's got a righty up, and you got Shaw at second. He decides to pitch the righty Bender versus the lefty Tucker. Would you have done that?
No.
I mean,
I was surprised by that move.
You saw what Tucker did. You saw Tucker was heating up in game 2. You saw him in game 3. Didn't get that at all. And Tucker hits a shallow ball to left field. Obviously, they're playing Tucker deep. Kyle Stowers can't make the plays, charging as hard as he can in case he needs to grab that ball and throw home. But he overruns the ball. That allows Shaw to score. Cubs take a 2-1 lead. Tucker gets to second on an error by Stowers. Seiya strikes out. Tucker steals third, but PCA strikes out. So we got a 1-run game going into the 9th, and it's time for Daniel Palencia, the guy that everybody was talking bad about after Monday night's game. And he gave up 3 fly balls. I don't think any of them were particularly well hit to end the game. And Dustin, that's why this one is called Sweet, Sweet Redemption, because of all the smack talk about Kyle Tucker, all the people talking about Matt Shaw, all the people talking about Daniel Palencia. These are, I mean, with Tucker, you're talking about a generational talent. When you're talking about Palencia and when you're talking about Matt Shaw, these are guys the Cubs need to build on, and they're going to make their mistakes and they're going to have their struggles. But Cub fans have to understand that's part of the growing process. And I feel like, you know what? Give these kids a chance. Give them a chance to breathe. Okay. Don't be all over them. Don't be talking all over social media. These guys are really great players. Now, if I'm telling you, if I saw Matt, if Daniel Palencia was throwing 80-mile-per-hour meatballs, then yeah, I would be like, yeah, we don't need this guy. I know what he is. I know what Matt Shaw can be. Just being patient and understanding there are going to be blips. There are going to be games that things aren't going to work out. I think that's the thing that Cub fans have got to just understand. And this is a really good team. I think they're still a few pieces away from truly potentially being a great team, but this is a team right now that's a lot of fun. They are breaking records, Dustin, that have been around since the 1800s as far as the offense is concerned. I think that they're a couple relievers away from truly being a great team, but I think that this is a team that is a lot of fun to watch. Just be patient, enjoy this, have fun. It's been a while since we've seen a team this fun in the North Side. Let's enjoy it a little bit, huh?
This is the Fly the W podcast. We've got episode 32, season number 4, Crawly, and we've got some breaking news as we get this one started. Sweet, sweet Cubs redemption. We'll get to all that in a minute, but our guy Bruce Levine with a little breaking news, Crawly.
Yeah, this just came hot off the wire. The Cubs and Wrigley Field and Chicago have been selected as the home of the 2027 MLB All-Star Game for the first time in 37 years, Dustin. 37 years, 1990. I mean, that is unbelievable. That is super exciting
news. It's exciting news. It's about damn time, right? It's about damn time. We did have a couple of clues, right? That something was up. You want to share that with the audience?
Yeah. And what ended up happening is that there was an ordinance at Wednesday's city council meeting, right? By Bennett Lawson. That's the alderman for the 44th Ward where Wrigley is. And they came to an agreement on an installation of anti-terrorism rated removable bollards. So like they're these huge kind of like some like round, or they could be metal, like square, to prevent like any trucks or cars from, unfortunately, I think that happened this year at one of the bowl games, right?
Yes. Down in New Orleans. So
New Orleans, right?
Bourbon Street, right? Mm-hmm.
Right. And so these bollards are designed to prevent people from ramming or putting explosive trucks or something next to a target like Wrigley Field at the All-Star Game, where you have residential, roads going down there. And this has been a fight for years between MLB, the Cubs, and the city of Chicago. I know that the Cubs have wanted for years to close down all the streets surrounding Wrigley during the game. That would be Clark, Addison, and Waveland and Sheffield. They have done things recently where they have like these yellow gates that go up and down. But I think this is probably going to be a little bit more a little bit more intense as far as making sure that nobody gets through and that nobody does something terrible during an event like the All-Star game.
Well, for those, Crawly, that were not as lucky as you were to be down at Wrigley for the World Series, what type of extra security was around that as compared to, let's say, a Friday or Saturday afternoon game at Wrigley?
They literally had the streets closed off around the entire neighborhood, and they were using snow plows. They would put the snow plow in the middle of the
snow plows, garbage trucks,
garbage trucks,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
all that stuff. So this is going to be a lot more different. So the city's agreed to contribute $10 million, or 1/3 of the final guaranteed maximum price, whichever is less. And then the state is going to assist with the project, and the Cubs are going to pay a minimum of $8 million to install the bollards as well as any overruns and maintain the security improvements in the future. So that's what's really been holding it up this whole time, has been that safety issues.
Right.
And so it's not the city paying for it. It's not the state. It's not just the Cubs. Everybody looks like they're kicking in a third. Now, another part of this, Dustin, is there was arguments between the city and the Cubs over part of a parking lot, right? The Highlander lot on Waveland Avenue. And so there's been problems as far as the size of the alley, getting garbage trucks through there, that kind of stuff. And so what they're going to do is that the Cubs are going to give a little bit of that back from that parking lot. They're going to move the fences. And so if you go to Wrigley, Toyota's bought the naming rights for everything around Wrigley. So if you take a look at this picture right here, the Highlander lot is where the players park. And that right here is right across the street from the Gallagher Way, that building, the administrative building. So my guess right now is that that's going to be the area, the parking lot they're going to be working on is going to either be towards Seminary or Clifton. I'm not exactly sure which one. So there was a lot of deals that were being made. And so, the most exciting thing is that the All-Star game is going to come back. 1990. Do you remember the 3 All-Stars the Cubs had at that game?
Andre Dawson, Ryne Sandberg, and was it Rick Sutcliffe or was
Sean Dustin?
It was Sean O'Meter. Okay, that was going to be my next pick. That's where I was going next. Okay, I mean, the first 2 I think were easy. Dunston wasn't hard necessarily, but when you get to 3, that was right in the glory days of Sutcliffe. So I thought maybe Rick had gotten the nod.
And who won the home run derby and how many home runs?
Sandberg.
Mm-hmm.
30?
3 home runs.
3.
What
the hell was going on?
So it was one of those moments when Wrigley was beautiful, everything's looking great, and then the weather shifted and the wind starts howling in. Wow. And so these were the contestants. These were the contestants this day. Ready? On the American League side, you had Mark McGwire, Ken Griffey Jr., Jose Canseco, Cecil Fielder. Only one player hit a home run that day. That was Mark McGwire, had 1 home run. Ryan, and on the NL side, Darryl Strawberry, Bobby Bonilla, Matt Williams, and Sandberg. Sandberg hit 3, Matt Williams 1, Bobby Bonilla did not get 1, and Darryl Strawberry did not get 1. And Sandberg's talked about it, how everybody was trying to hit these moonshots onto the street, and the wind just kept, the higher up you got, the more it would knock the ball down. And Sandberg knew what he had to do, which was hit those line drive homers. Now, this is before the Jumbotrons, because the Jumbotrons now you can kind of get a little bit of blockage of the wind with that if you hit it towards the Jumbotrons. Back then, when the wind was howling in, nothing was going to stop it.
No, nothing was going to get out of here. Well, Crawly, here's to hoping that PCA is in that home run contest in 27 and that the total is much more than 3. This is the Fly the W podcast. It's season 4. It's episode 32. We're calling this one Sweet, Sweet Cubs Redemption after the Cubs took care of business down in Miami. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Give us a 5-star review. You can email us, crawlysclubhouse@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can watch us on Crawly's Clubhouse YouTube page. Some of you are doing that right now. So, Crawly, with the win on the afternoon Wednesday, 2-1. The Cubs picked up their 30th win. So how does that stack things up in the NL Central?
Yeah, the Cubs are at their high water mark, 10 games over 500. They're 7-3 in their last 10 and got a 2-game winning streak. The Cardinals are starting to slow down a little bit, Dustin. They're 6-4 in their last 10, but they're 3 games back. Cincinnati 5.5, the Brewers 6, and the Pirates in last place. They are 13 games back. So definitely nice to get a little bit of breathing room and seeing the Cardinals kind of slow down.
Cardinals have slowed down a little bit, that's for sure, and they're going to Cincinnati. They're taking on the Reds. We're going to preview that for everybody in a little bit, but they're 5.5 ahead of the Reds, so they could really put a little foot on the throat, as we would like to say, against those Reds in Cincinnati over the weekend. So roster moves. Ian Happ has come off the IL.
Yep, Ian Happ is back from that oblique injury. Moises Ballesteros went down, and I thought it was a good learning experience for Moises. You know, he got a little cup of coffee. He got to see what it was like in the big leagues, and now he can go back to Iowa and work on things. You saw what they did with Matt Shaw as far as making adjustments to Matt Shaw's swing and kind of getting him. Hey, the only, a lot of times players have the mentality of, this is what got me here. I have to keep doing what got me here. And then you get into the big leagues and you're like, that ain't going to cut it. We're going to have to make some changes. So it can be very humbling. And I think we saw some things out of Moises. He didn't strike out a lot, which is kind of his MO. As far as him having, being able to cover a lot of plate, he was able to do that, but he couldn't really elevate the ball at this level. So let's see what happens there. Unfortunately, Dustin, we got some bad news that same day on Tuesday. We found out the night before on Monday that Porter Hodge is going on the IL. He's got an oblique issue. So the way that this works, Dustin, here is that Ian Happ's activated. Ballesteros goes back to Iowa. Porter Hodge goes on the 15-day IL. Ethan Roberts is recalled from AAA Iowa. I got to tell you, I'm a little surprised, ever since Luke Little, had that kind of meltdown in San Diego. I mean, he's been pitching well in Iowa, but just nothing.
No, nothing yet. That's for sure. All right. What else do we have as far as that? We're pretty set on that. You got some power rankings to share with the group?
Yeah, we do have the power rankings, and I don't know. This is right after the White Sox series, right? We know that the Cubs swept the White Sox, and so I thought, hey, it helped the power rankings. I know it wasn't against a great team, but it's rivalries and all that stuff. Number 10 is the Mariners. They were previously 9. They fall 1 spot. The Twins were previously 18. They're up to 9, Dustin, after that 13-game win streak. So that was interesting. The Giants stay at 8. The Cubs are at number 7. They were previously 5. So they dropped 2, even though they swept the series the weekend. I don't know how that happens. Phillies stay at 6. And then the team that took their place were the Yankees. So I guess maybe because it's the Yankees, but they went from 7 to 5. So they kind of flipped with the Cubs. Padres are dropping a little bit. They were at 2. They're now at 4. The Mets moved up to 3. Second is the Tigers, Dustin. The Tigers.
Yeah, the Tigers by record, right, are the best.
Javi Baez, comeback player of the year. I will be going with Club 400 on our road trip, our annual road trip. I'll be going to Detroit. So that might be a really fun one to go to.
It might really be. I saw a little nugget about Javi Baez. I don't know if you saw that. You might already know this because you're into the collecting and whatnot. Not that this is a collector's item for somebody like you to be able to get, but I saw that every time Javi Baez hits a home run, the clubhouse attendant takes the bat, wraps it up. They write something on it, like what number home run and the date. And every bat he has hit a home run with, he has kept in his career. He has never used a bat again after hitting a home run with it. Thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, Javi's an interesting cat. That's all I'll tell you. Interesting cat, and I'm just glad to see him having success. He was a hero for the Cubs World Series team. He was the face for a little while, and great to see him happen. And the Dodgers are at number 1 again, but we'll see. So hopefully, as far as the power rankings
doesn't matter right now, Crawly. Right. It doesn't matter right now, right? Here's the good thing. The Cubs are in the mix. It's not Craigtober yet. It's not even June yet. We still are in May. It feels like it's Thanksgiving outside, but we're still in May right now. And it's okay. It's okay. We we as Cub fans should just be enjoying this. You've been stressing that. Be happy that you're in the conversation. Don't worry about what all the talking heads might be saying right this second. Also, Jed Hoyer jumped on the score earlier in the week with the Mully and Haw show.
Yeah, always great when you guys are able to get Jed on. And, I think for me, what was interesting was a lot of what he was talking about as far as pitching is concerned. And so you guys asked him about the closer situation. And when Jed was asked about that, here's what he had to say about who the Cubs closer is.
I think that's probably what happens so often in bullpens. I feel like we had gotten into a pretty good groove, sort of like Palencia and Keller and Hodge and the backs, the two lefties have been throwing really well. And I feel like that formula has been working well for us. And obviously Porter, went down with an oblique injury. We're hopeful it's not too serious, but, certainly we can't play shorthanded, back there. And so now we have to figure that out again. So I think that's just the nature of how it's going to be. We're going to have guys step up. We're going to candidly need some more innings out of our starters. Last night we were asking for 4 1/3 scoreless out of our bullpen, and we almost got there, but not quite. But we're going to need to have these guys get into the 6th, maybe in the 7th, in order to rest these guys a little bit. Otherwise, they get overtaxed. But I think Brad Keller's been throwing the ball well. Really, Daniel has been almost flawless until last night. So we've had guys throwing the ball well. We just need more guys to step up, and hopefully Porter's not injured for too long.
So there was 3 names that he brought up and he brought up Porter Hodge, he brought up Daniel Palencia, and Brad Keller. I thought that was interesting. The one guy he didn't bring up, Dustin, Ryan Presley.
Never brought Ryan's name up. Not at least at that point in the interview.
Correct. So those were the guys that he seemed to be talking about having the most trust. And so, as you guys always do, and Mully and Haw just do a great job. Those are pros when you talk about interviewing. They asked about Ryan Presley's role, and here's what Jed had to say.
No, I think his role has shifted with performance. I think that the way Porter was throwing and Keller and Palencia, and obviously he had a hiccup, and I thought he threw the ball really well last night. He's been good the last couple of times out, but I think sort of having him out of the 9th inning for a bit and working on stuff. It's just that role is really hard if you're whether struggling with an injury or struggling with command or the use of a pitch. The game's on the line when you're in the game, and right. So I think taking him out of the pressure of the 9th and letting him work on some things made sense. And listen, he's been, like I said, the last couple of times out, he's been good, and my hope is that he can just continue to improve and miss a few more bats as he does that. And I think that'll help us contribute, whether it's closing or whether it's 7th, 8th inning. Certainly he can be a big part of our group back there.
I think the key thing that he said, there's a couple things. Number one, getting him out of the pressure situation, get him right. But he said he wants to see him miss a few more bats. And that's what we did not see from Ryan Presley. We're starting to see a little bit more whiff, but that's the key for Presley. He has to be able to miss bats and strike guys out if he's going to be a closer. You just don't want guys that are in the closer role that can't miss bats. You need guys with gas. You need guys that can get swing and miss stuff. You don't want the ball in play anytime, because anytime the ball's hit in play, Dustin, you never know what's going to happen.
No, you never know. You never know. Not with this group right now.
And so he was asked about when help might be on the way, and here's what he replied.
And I think there's no question that the bullpen is going to be aided by outside help, whether that's big transactions or small. I think there's no question we're going to continue to add guys, and Pomerantz is a example. We added him from Seattle, just like we did with Tyson Miller a year ago, and you just got to keep churning through relievers. I think as far as larger transactions, that doesn't really start probably until mid to late June at the earliest. It's just the nature of it. And I think when you look around baseball now, there's a lot of teams that are in the that believe they're in the race, that feel like they have a chance. That's one area that baseball is a little different right now than it has been in other years, where the sellers are less obvious. And so I do think that thinking about big external transactions, that's really at least a month away, if not more. And so I think we got to focus on smaller transactions, and we got to focus on getting our guys healthy and having our own guys be effective.
So I guess that one frustrates me there, Dustin. And it's just everybody and their brother knew this team needed a closer, a veteran, experienced closer, lights out guy. And I'm not trying to diss Ryan Presley. He could still have success. It just wasn't high on my list of guys that I said, like, oh, if we get that guy, that's the guy that's going to close it down, right? Like we both walked into it like, let's see what happens. Let's cross our fingers. Let's hope. When it was out there, Tanner Scott was out there. He was there for the taking, and you let the Dodgers swipe him from you. And that's the thing that still irritates me, is that I just feel that if this team had a lockdown closer, we could have done so much more. Like I said, 3 to 5 wins more for the Cubs if you had that lockdown closer.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, right. How many, what have they, 7 so far? 7 blown saves so far this year?
And when you think about it, Dustin, that's just money. You don't lose prospects when you get a guy like that. If you want to get, whoever's on the trade market, whether it's someone from Miami or some other team, it's going to cost you prospects, and I know a lot of these prospects don't pan out, but I would have rather have just sat there, got a guy for money, rather than sit here and you're going to have to compete against other teams that are in a desperate situation. Everyone's always looking for a closer. That's usually your final piece, right?
Yep.
And so everyone's going to be.
I think they thought they had one in Ryan Presley, right? Isn't the problem, Crawly, that they identified the wrong guy? It seems like Jed, and I guess Carter at this point, but Jed, is not great at picking bullpens.
I don't see. Here's the thing. I think they're getting guys that they think are good enough. I don't think I don't think anybody. I don't think Jed or Carter said Ryan Presley is the man we wanted. He was our target. He's our absolute.
Well, they're paying
closer.
him. They're paying him like he is. They are also, gave him guarantees like he is. They had to bend over backwards to make him want to waive, I guess, some type of a no trade clause to get up here. So,
I would sit there and I would say that I still think that, because I know they were trying to get Tanner Scott, right? They were trying to get Tanner Scott, and it was just right there. They just missed it. And so it wasn't like they weren't trying to get somebody else. It wasn't like they felt like if you would have gotten Tanner Scott, you still would have been going for things. But I think that would have been 100% the closer on this. It's not like, Ryan Presley was quick out of the job. It wasn't like they sat there and he had a bunch of blown.
No, they took it away from him. I guess my point is that they thought that was, that's who they identified. That's who they decided to be that guy. And it was the wrong choice.
Well, here's the thing. They traded to get him. Okay. And
right.
So they took on $8.5 million out of a $14 million deal. So his deal was worth $14 million. So 8.5 in general for a closer, that's not the high end of what a closer goes for.
No, but I think that's what they tried to do, right? They also gave up who did they remind everybody who they gave up?
Who did they give up to get him? So I don't it wasn't anything big in my opinion. I don't think it was anything like they didn't give away. No, it was nothing that you're going to sit there and get upset about. I would say it's
okay. That's okay. If it's not, it's not. But we talked
it was
about
Juan Bayo and Cash.
Okay, Juan Bayo and Cash. So again, nobody's going to lose sleep over that. But again, I'm not trying to pick on Jed. I like Jed in the big picture, but I just think that everybody has an Achilles heel, right? Everybody's not good at everything. Even Theo wasn't good at everything, and I just think Jed's Achilles heel, since he's been in charge, has been the bullpen. He's never been able to get that right.
Let me ask you this. If all of a sudden Tom Ricketts said, "You get the closer you need, money's no object," do you think he would have gotten Ryan Presley for their closer?
No. But based on what he had, that's where he went.
Right, and that's the thing.
My biggest issue probably is that you had to convince the guy, like you had to promise him this, and him and his family were still bellyache. Listen, if you don't want to come, don't come. Okay, stay in Houston.
He had decisions he had to make, and we've talked about this before. You get family, you got kids, you get a home. You kind of make something like that. There was, you and I both have significant others and families, and
right. It sounds like it's easier, I guess, right? This is my job. I get paid handsomely to do it. This is what we're doing. Pack up. You can fly anywhere you want, whenever you want. All right. I mean, I hate that argument, that people have to move for their jobs all the time, and it's not easy. And these guys are making, millions and millions of dollars to play a game. So I'm not going to be, they'll get over it. Something we're not going to get over it for a while is that vision out in Pittsburgh where the fan went over the railing. And now that fan, the person that fan was at the game with, there has been some legal proceedings as the fan was drinking underage.
Yeah, Dustin, we kind of had this feeling the whole time, and we didn't say anything, because you want to be careful. You don't want to be loose with the facts if we don't know them. But a 21-year-old man is now facing charges, misdemeanors, after his friend, he was 20 years old, the one that fell over that 20-foot wall, the Clemente wall over in right field. And so Ethan Kirkwood is facing charges that he bought alcoholic drinks during the game for Caven Markwood, who was only 20 years old. So they found surveillance of Kirkwood buying 2 24-ounce Miller Lite cans, and then happened a couple different times. But I'd gotten some tweets from people that were at the game that were kind of talking about, guy was, was drinking and this and that. And you just got to be careful, man, sometimes. And again, hoping that he recovers. He's young. He's a kid. He made a mistake and he's paying dearly for it, and his friend as well. I mean, that's going to be hard to get over, but still wishing him speedy recovery.
Yeah, not cheering against him. That's for sure. It was a really ugly scene, and I guess we're just fortunate that he's still with us. You're listening to the Fly the W podcast. We're calling this one Sweet, Sweet Cubs Redemption. It's episode 32 of season number 4. Please continue to listen, download, review, and subscribe. Feel free, 5-star reviews. They don't hurt. You can also email us, crawleysclubhouse@gmail.com. And some of you are doing it right now, but as a reminder, you can watch us on Crawley's Clubhouse YouTube page. All right, we talked about it a little bit earlier. Cubs, Reds in Cincinnati for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yep. And when we take a look at the Reds last season, they just were a disappointment. I thought they were going to win the division, Dustin. I remember saying that, and I thought the Cubs were going to be second. But they finished with a record of 77-85, 16 games back of the Brewers. The Red season was a disaster before they even played their first game. Third baseman Noelle Marte got popped for 80 games for PEDs. Star shortstop Matt McLain injured himself in spring training doing diving drills. He had to get season-ending shoulder surgery. Christian Encarnacion Strand broke his right hand on April 27th. He was done for the year. They had all sorts of injuries in the pitching staff. David Bell was let go in the final week of the season. But as bad as the season was for the Reds, Dustin, they took the season series from the Cubs 8-5. The Reds were 4-2 at home and 4-3 against the Cubs at Wrigley. The Cubs won the last series of the year, 2 out of 3, but in the majority of the season, the Reds took the Cubs to the woodshed.
Yeah, it wasn't even close, really.
Now, as far as the offseason, we talked about David Bell being let go. They picked up one of the great managers in baseball, Terry Francona. Were you surprised, Dustin, that he came back to baseball?
I'm surprised he came back. And the reason I'm not surprised he came back to baseball. Let me put it to you that way. I'm surprised he came back in this situation because as we go through this, their biggest acquisition in the offseason was Terry Francona. You don't bring in Terry Francona if you're not going to do much other than that.
Yeah, when you take a look at, like you said, who they added, it's no one eye-popping. Brady Singer, starting pitcher. Gavin Lux, you remember from the Dodgers, second baseman. And Taylor Rogers, a relief pitcher. So, no, they didn't pick up any names. Yes, Jonathan India is no longer on the team, second baseman. I thought, Dustin, that kid was going to have a future and just never really panned out. Justin Wilson, former Cub, is gone. And Ty France, first baseman's gone. As far as 2025, the Reds are in third place, like we talked about, with a record of 25-26. They were one game over 500 in March and April, but they've struggled in May, Dustin, going 9-11 so far, and have lost 5 of their 6 series this month. They've lost to the Nationals, Braves, Astros, White Sox, and they just lost 2 or 3 to the Pirates in Pittsburgh. They did win a series against the Guardians last weekend, but Dustin, the pitching really hasn't been the problem. It's the offense that for some reason hasn't clicked. On Tuesday night, they lost their 4th 1-0 loss of the season. Ellie De La Cruz is batting 182 in May in 20 games. Matt McLain was dropped down in the order. He's batting 188 this month. Tyler Stevenson had a left oblique strain. He came back May 2nd. He's batting 182 on the season. And so they're just dealing with a lot of injuries. They got some guys coming back. I told you about Stevenson came back at the beginning of May. Hunter Greene, their ace, will be coming off the IL, but the Reds are still missing first baseman Christian Encarnacion Strand to a lower back issue. Jake Freely, outfielder's out with a left calf injury. Third baseman Noel V. Marte to a left oblique strain. And former Cub Jaime Candelario has a lumbar spine strain. So we're not going to see any of those guys. And so those are some big names that they're missing.
Yes, those are some holes in the lineup. There is no doubt about that. All right, how about some tail of the tape, Crawly? Tail of the tape time.
As you can imagine, the Cubs have the advantage, especially in hitting. Batting average, Cubs are 4th in the league.
Terrible at hitting, the Reds, as you've put out there. Awful.
The Reds are 241. That's 19th in baseball. Slug, the Cubs have a 510 slug, second in baseball. The Reds, 391. That's 13th, but they also play in that bandbox in Cincinnati. Runners in scoring position, the Cubs are second with 304. Runner average with runners in scoring position. The Reds are 20th at 242. But when you look at pitching, Dustin, the advantage goes to the Reds. Starting pitching ERA, Reds are 361. They're 9th in baseball, while the Cubs are at 371, 13th. Reliever whip, the Reds are 6th in baseball, so their bullpen is much better than the Cubs. 118 bullpen whip, where the Cubs are 21st with 136. So you do not want to fall behind the Reds in this series. And then when you talk about fielding, the Cubs are a better fielding team. They're 7th in baseball with 21 defensive run saves, while the Reds are 17th with 3 defensive run saves. So hitting Cubs, pitching Reds, fielding Cubs. So this should be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, strength on strength, right? All right, let's get into the pitching problems. Game 1, going to be Friday night. Matthew Boyd, who's my top of the Cubs rotation at this point, against Hunter Greene. It's a 5:40 first pitch.
Yes, sir. Matt Boyd, 4-2 with the 2.98 ERA, 53 strikeouts in 51 and a third innings. Matt's coming off 2 quality starts in a row against the Mets on 5/11. He gave up 2 runs in 6 innings on 6 hits with a season high 8 strikeouts to no walks. On 5/16, he gave up 3 runs on 4 hits in 6 innings, once again striking out 8 and walking none. Matt is 1-3 lifetime, though, against the Reds, Dustin, with a 6 ERA and 4 starts. And he's 0-3 with a 9.69 ERA in the Great American Ballpark. So the numbers don't look good. But again, that was in years past. The good things, not a lot of Reds have seen Boyd. But Tyler Stevenson is 2-3 against Matt. And Jose Trevino 2-for-4 with 3 walks. But this is a different Reds team than Boyd's faced in the past.
Yeah, it is a different Reds team. There's no doubt about that. How does the Cubs do against Hunter Greene?
Yeah, Hunter Greene's the ace of this staff. He has the same record as Boyd, 4-2, but a lower ERA, 2.36 in 8 games started. Greene has a whopping 61 strikeouts in 45 and 2/3 innings pitched. On May 9th, Greene was put on the 15-day IL with a right groin strain. So the last time he pitched, Dustin, was against the Braves on 5/7 when he had to come out of the game before the 4th inning because he felt something in his groin. He had pitched 3 scoreless innings in that game. But Greene has given up 2 runs or less in 6 of his 8 starts. He only had 1 bad start, April 19th versus the Orioles, when he gave up 5 runs in 3 innings. Greene is 4-1 lifetime against the Cubs with a 4.06 ERA in 7 games started. A lot of Cubs hitters struggle against Greene. Ian Happ is 2-for-13. Nico Horner, 3-for-15. Dansby Swanson, 0-for-10. But at least Seiya Suzuki hits him well. He's 6-for-13 with a double, a triple, 2 home runs, and 6 RBIs. So Seiya's got to tell his teammates what he's doing. With Hunter, he is really someone, again, before he went on the Nationals, he's a strikeout pitcher. When you talk about Hunter, he's a big strikeout pitcher. He's had 6 or more strikeouts in 7 of his 8 starts against the Nationals on May 2nd. Before he went on the IL, he struck out 12 batters. Not only that, he doesn't walk a lot of hitters. He throws mainly 2 pitches. I know people go, Ben Brown needs another pitch. Hunter Greene throws 2 pitches, a 4-seamer and a slider. That's 99% of the pitches that he throws. And his fastball averages 99 miles per hour, and his slider averages 88 miles per hour. And both of them have wicked movement. This is going to be a tough one, Dustin.
So that's a pitcher duel. If you're into the pitching matchup kind of thing, that's the one to watch. All right, so Saturday, a little 3:10, right smack in the middle of your Saturday, Colin Ray, Andrew Abbott, the matchup.
Yeah, Colin Ray is 3-0 with a 2.38 ERA in 10 games. 7 of those starts with 32 strikeouts and 41 2/3 innings pitch. 2 starts ago against Miami at Wrigley, he went the deepest he's gone all season, 6 2/3 innings, and gave up 2 runs on 6 hits. In his last start against the White Sox, he threw 5 1/3 innings and gave up 1 run on 4 hits. Ray is a perfect 5-0 in his career against the Reds in 8 games, 7 of those starts. But his ERA against the Reds is 5.20. He's 3-0 against the Reds in the Great American Ballpark with a 5.52 ERA. But as a team, the Reds slashed 328, 369, 689 against Ray, and a lot of guys hit him pretty well. Will Benson is 5 for 10. Ellie De La Cruz is 4 for 10. Spencer Steer, 5 for 12. The only guy that really struggles against Ray is TJ Friedel, who is 0 for 11 against Colin. They are going to be going up the Cubs against Andrew Abbott. He's a 25-year-old lefty. He's 3-0 this season in 7 games, started with a 180 ERA in those 7 games, with 43 strikeouts in 35 innings pitched. Abbott's having a great season, giving up 1 run or less in 6 of the 7 games he started. In the month of May, Dustin, he's pitched 20 innings and only given up 1 earned run and no home runs. Like Greene, he strikes out a lot of batters, but unlike Greene, occasionally he gets his bouts of wildness, but this season he's had a lot better control. Abbott is 1-0 lifetime against the Cubs in 3 games started with a 3.68 ERA. Not a lot of Cubs have seen him, but Nico's 2 for 5 against him. Dansby's 3 for 5, and Kyle Tucker's 2 for 3. Abbott throws a 4-seam fastball that averages 91 miles per hour, a changeup, a sweeper, curveball. All his pitches have a lot of movement on them.
All right, and then game 3, this is going to be on your Sunday afternoon of the holiday weekend. Ben Brown versus Nick Lodolo, a 12:40 first pitch in Cincinnati.
Yeah, Ben Brown is 3-3 with a 5.44 ERA in 10 games. 9 of those starts with 58 strikeouts and 46 1/3 innings. The thing about Ben is that he's had 6 good starts and 3 really bad starts. He's had 6 starts where he's given up 3 runs or less and 3 starts where he's given up 5 or more runs. In his last start against Miami, it was one of the bad starts. He went 4 2/3 inning, gave up 6 runs on 7 hits, including back-to-back home runs to lead off the game. Browns faced the Reds twice last season, and it didn't go well. The Cubs faced the Reds twice in 1 week in 2024. Brown pitched in both of those games. On June 2nd at Wrigley Field, he gave up 5 runs in 5 innings of work. And then a week later, on June 8th, he gave up 3 runs in 4 innings of work. That was the last start he made of the season before going on the IL. Nobody on the Reds has more than 5 at-bats against Brown, but TJ Friedel is 2 for 5 with 2 homers and 5 RBI, so Ben better be careful with TJ Friedel.
Yeah, you want to keep your eyes on that for sure. How about the flip side, Nick Lodolo going against our Cubs?
27-year-old lefty who is 4-4 with the 3.22 ERA.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we might see a lot of Justin Turner and not a lot of Michael Busch, but he's 4-4 with the 3.22 ERA in 10 games started. 49 strikeouts and 58 2/3 innings pitched. Lodolo's given up 3 runs or less in 8 of his 10 games he started. He's had 1 really bad game that hurt his ERA. In May 3rd, he gave up 7 runs, 6 earned, and 5 1/3 innings against the Nationals. In his last 3 starts, he's gotten back on track. He's given up 2 runs in 6 innings against the Braves, 3 runs in 5 1/3 innings against the White Sox. And in his last start in Pittsburgh, he gave up 1 run in 6 innings. Lodolo's 2-2 lifetime against the Cubs with a 5.27 ERA in 5 games started. Happ is 5 for 14 against Lodolo. Nico's 4 for 11, but Dansby's only 2 for 9. Lodolo throws a 4-seamer, a curve, a changeup, and a slider. He's going to try to get you to hit the ball on the ground.
Very good, very good, very good. All right, who's hot and who's not? We got Matt Shaw making the list first time this year, maybe.
How about it? Matt Shaw is 5 for his last 11 with 3 doubles. Way to go. And Kyle Tucker, 9 for his last 23 with a triple, 2 home runs, and 2 RBIs, slashing 391, 500, and 739. And Nico Horner and Dansby Swanson are both 9 for their last 24. So those guys have been heating up. Unfortunately, I mean, there's not a lot of guys that are cold, but Ian Happ is 1 for 10 since coming off the IL with 4 strikeouts and no walks. That's not.
Yeah,
Ian
I might
Happ.
give him a DH day. We talked about that. I might let Seiya go play left one of these days and let Ian DH.
I have no problem with that. As far as the Reds are concerned, Will Benson, their right fielder, is 7 for his last 16, Dustin, with 4 home runs and 7 RBIs in the last week. He's slashing 438, 471, and slugging 1.250. So be careful, Will Benson. Austin Hayes, left fielder, 8 for his last 23 with a home run and 4 RBIs, slashing 348, 375, 565. And Spencer Steer, 6 for his last 19. So the Reds have kind of been hitting pretty good. They don't have a lot of guys on the not list, but the 2 are very noticeable names. Ellie De La Cruz is 3 for his last 22. We talked about that, slashing 136, 240, 227. And Matt McClain, who's been moved down in the orders, 2 for his last 19 with 10 strikeouts and no walks, slashing 105, 100, 105. So don't let those guys get hot, and hopefully the Cubs can handle the rest of the team.
Well, let's hope that Ellie De La Cruz remains on that list the next time we get around. Let's hope he has a cold weekend. They have gotten shut out quite a few times. We had our old buddy Gordon Wittenmeyer on the show today to help preview that series. Always good to check in with old Gordon Wittenmeyer. Good time with him. It's prediction time, Crawly. Prediction, please.
Okay, so I'm taking a look here, and it's this one's a tough one, Dustin. I'm struggling with this. I would say that I am curious to see. It's 2 out of. I don't like the Hunter Greene start. I'm going to tell you that right there. Colin Ray versus. I got the Cubs winning 1 out of 3. I don't think they're going to get swept. I think they're going to. I think
Crawly.
I think they're going to take. This is a bizarre one. I think they're going to take Game 3. I think Ben Brown versus Nick Lodolo. I think Ben Brown's going to have a good game, and I think they're going to hit Nick Lodolo.
Well, as a team, they've been doing very well against lefties. As a team, I just really eventually want to see Michael Busch take some bats against some left-handed pitchers. I'm going to go one better. I'm going to say the Cubs are going to win this series. It's going to be tight. It's not going to be easy, but I'm believing in this offense. Kyle Tucker. In going in the right direction. Ian Happ can only go, get better. Seiya is hot. I'm saying Cubs take 2 out of 3. I think Friday will be the tough game, but I think, if you win that game, you should feel really good.
I'm very curious to see how the Cubs slug plays in the Great American Ballpark. That ought to be interesting. And I know some of our guys are going to be going down there too. So hopefully, I know Will is listening to the show right now as he's heading to Cincinnati. So thank you, Will. And hopefully you get to see 2 out of 3 wins, maybe even a sweep, right, Dustin?
Well, that would be fantastic. I don't want to get greedy, but listen, you got the Reds on the ropes a little bit. They're 5.5 behind you. Don't come back to Wrigley with Monday on the holiday. You're going to take on the Rockies, right? The Rockies are in town, and all of a sudden you're only up a couple of games. Let's increase that number. Let's get that number closer to 7.5 or 8.
I like it. Put a little distance between yourself and the Reds, and hopefully come back flying the W. Go Cubs!
It's all over.